Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I look at 1996-97 Flair Ultra basketball cards. This is kind of a pivotal set for Ultra. This was Flair basically in the 1980s. They tended to make, in the mid to late 1980s, they tended to make really good cards, especially basketball cards. And in 1990, for some reason, something bad happened to the designers of that company because they all lost their mind. And ever since, all through the early to mid 90s, they were desperately trying to figure out how to design cards. They used to know, and then they forgot. Fortunately, with Ultra, after 1 year of not really making it work, they figured it out. But in 1995, there was a major shift that they made where suddenly their cards didn't work anymore. Now, the inserts, which was what they had turned into, they'd focused all their attention on it, that continued to work. They'd been doing a really good job with that. But for 1995, they had to regroup. Everything that they were doing in the main sets just wasn't working. And so 1996 was this scramble where they were playing around with things, trying to regroup and figure out, okay, who and what are they in terms of the main cards. And they didn't really know what they were doing. It got so weird that in football, in 1996, they had two sets, and one of them was just a basic set, and the other one was a really chaotic, cool, but a very chaotic creation. So you can just see how much chaos was going on in terms of trying to figure out what they were going to be doing. And 1997 would be the year where they'd pull all the pieces together. Except with Flair and Ultra, they actually figured that out in basketball at the end of the 1996 card year. So 96-97 was the beginning of the new era of Flair, starting with Ultra and Flair. And the Ultra set would basically set the template for Ultra sets basically through to the end. The card that they came up with for 96-97 was a full bleed card, just like the year before, and they also, just like the 95-96 card where they had a plaque down at the bottom with the name, here they had the name, but it was like in cursive. And then they had a tail that came out and became an underline underneath with the team name inside of the tail. Great combination. But they did it with a holofoil, a rainbow holofoil, which made it really vibrant and lively, which with the effect of the cursive, the angling, the way everything was built in, the dynamism was just a fantastic component to this card. And the slightly updated logo, also in holofoil, making these cards a lot of fun. But they also did a really, really good job of image selection. So the card front was working beautifully. The card back was serviceable. Nothing special. It was almost like they had just resigned themselves to making Flair card backs, but they were making better Flair card backs. That's kind of the way to think of it. So the card was a solid move, a fantastic card front, a workable card back. But this card set was not going to be reliant on great card designs. They already knew that here in the 90s, if you were going to succeed, you had to have chase cards, primarily parallels. And Flair was pretty late to getting with parallels. So here in 96-97 Ultra, they decided to go with a 3 parallel system, which was you have your base card and 2 parallels. Now, Upper Deck had been doing this for 3 years by this time, so they were really late to getting to this party, but at least they were finally arriving. And so this is what would really define collecting in this set. And the first parallel is their gold parallel. The gold medallion cards are the same as the regular ones, except instead of a rainbow holofoil, it has a gold holofoil. And on the card back, it has a G in front of the number. That's it. That's the only difference. But they didn't do anything different with the logo, just the particular kind of holofoil that they used. But they wanted to make a really high-end parallel, which is what you do with a 2 parallel setup. And the higher level parallel for them was going to be their platinum medallion. And here, again, the card front is exactly the same, except they went with a weird mottled holofoil, a rainbow holofoil, but it has a spectral quality that's really cool and really engaging. Now, it has kind of a fractal quality. It doesn't really have the undulating effect that you would like to think that an effect like this would have. But it really doesn't matter because it looked cool, primarily because it was tucked into these little pieces of the card where you have the text down at the bottom and you have the logo up at the top. So really, really cool effect. And on the card back, instead of a G in front of the number, it had a P. That was it. But that was for almost the entire set. So basically all of the cards were done in this way. And when I need to specify that because they actually still had a lot of subsets in this card set. And they had subsets in both Series 1 and Series 2. So the first Series 1 card set is on the block. And this is a bunch of big men, a bunch of guys downtown who are guarding the hoop. The card is really kind of cool because they used a skybox effect in the back, where they have a color fade, a two-color color fade, and the player is isolated in front of the color fade, which looks great, except they have that big white stripe down the side for the text, and it overpowers the rest of the card. So this is a card that should be great, and if you take the time to allow it, it can be really good. It's an awkward one that they did, but it was still a really good try. Fortunately, they were much more successful with their Ultra effort. This is a really cool and dynamic card design. It's a lot of fun, except for the fact that when you look at it, you want this card to just be a constant exploration of excitement. And the problem with these subsets is they don't have very much holofoil on the cards. So when you go to explore it and you expect all these effects, there's almost none on the card. There's a little bit. And so this card is kind of misleading because it looks like it's going to be amazing until you really explore it and you realize, yeah, it's not. But it's still pretty cool for what it is. But thankfully their maximum effort card, emphasis singular, this one makes up for it. This is gorgeous. It's 5 big men, and basically they're spread out on the card and you have color patches, and it's cool how they fade together, and then when they all fade together you get the black of the Spurs for David Robinson. Cool effect, bright colors. I love the way that it looks, and I wish this was not a standalone card. I don't know why it's a standalone card, but it is. Had they done a whole subset of this would have been a fantastic subset. We've got one, so that's good. I'm not going to complain, but overall. And then they have their checklist for Series 1, and with the checklist, Jerry Stackhouse was the spokesman, so they made all the checklists of Jerry Stackhouse. Now that's not too bad. That's kind of cool. I'm glad that they brought the players back onto the checklist. That was a great tradition that Ultra had, and it's nice that they're back with it. It'd be nice if it was more players than just Stackhouse, but still, it is nice to have Stackhouse on the checklist. But you might notice that there's no foil. And because there's no foil, there's no parallel. So the checklists do not have the parallels. It's the rest of the cards in the set. And this is true for both Series 1 and Series 2. So with Series 2, it starts off with a bunch of veterans and rookies, which look the same except they have a little rookie at the logo. And then they get into the subsets, which starts off with Rookie Encore. And Rookie Encore is basically some more cards of the same players. And in this case, these cards, they're not the greatest cards in the world, but they are pretty cool. They are pretty nice cards. And with the cards, this gives me an opportunity to show you that with the subset cards, when they have the gold medallion or the platinum medallion, they actually have an eraser mark down at the bottom to let you know on the card front that it's a gold or platinum medallion, even though on the back it still has the G or the P next to the number. So it's interesting that they did that. But it's always fun to get the parallels, especially the platinum. Now they did have 2 other subsets here in Series 2, the first one being Step It Up. And this, to me, this is the best card, other than the maximum effort, this is the best subset in this card set. These cards are really great. They actually cash in on the opportunity that it has. Color shot of the player, black and white background behind, and then some color elements that add a really great amount of rich quality to the cards. So a great balance to how it reads. And these have some pretty good players, because these are the players who really kick it into high gear at the end and carry the team on their back. So cool subset. Now it ends with Play of the Game. And for football card collectors, this can mislead you a little bit, because in football, Flair created a card set that was an insert set called Play of the Game. These are the same cards, but here in basketball, this was done as a subset in the set. So for football collectors, understand this is a part of the set. Likewise for basketball collectors, if you go over to football, it is going to be an insert set. It can kind of throw you off. But it is neat to see with the subset cards, even though there's not as much holofoil on the cards, the effect still is really cool, even with the smaller amount. It's just kind of nestled in, but hey, it's still a really cool effect. And it's a fun thing about this card set. And likewise, they have a couple of checklists at the end, which don't have any parallels. And that was the set. But it is, of course, Flair, and so they've got lots of inserts. And the first insert set is All Rookie Team, which has a card that has a lot of stuff on it. First off, you'll notice that there's gold foil on it, and the gold foil has a really great quality. It stands out really well on this card. And that's in large part because most of the card is actually a matte finish that is basically black. And that creates a really good centering of the spotlight of the player, which is different. So you have a matte surface, and then the spotlight, everything inside of it is in color, and it's glossy. And it's embossed. So this card has a lot of things. It has the gold foil, it has the matte finish, it has the glossy full color image, and it has the embossing. So the card has a lot going for it, and it is a fun card in terms of all the things that go into it. It's really ambitious. It's not the greatest card, but it is fun. That's obviously the key word to it. I can't say the same for board game. In the case of board game, this is a card set that I really want to like, because every time I look at it, it screams out that it's going to do something, but it doesn't. It has that black and red checkerboard in the background that's out of focus, which just implies that, okay, there's going to be something going on, but there's nothing going on. The player is very dominant on the card and kind of gets lost in the checkerboard. And so whether it would be embossing or a spectral effect, or I want something to happen on this card, but nothing does. So it always throws me off. Now, the Court Masters cards, these actually do cash in on the fact that they are acetate cards. And acetate cards, sometimes they work really well, sometimes they don't. This is a nice blend between the two where it's more on the working side. The outside of the border is basically the acetate effect with a slight team hint to it. And then there's kind of a border inside of that with a piece of the background behind the player that is captured in a very dynamic way, which makes it plays a cool trick. And overall, the card, while it's not the greatest card in the world, that dynamic trick that is played in it actually makes this a really cool card all on its own. So yeah, so pretty nice card. They also did their Decade, not Decade of Excellence, this is their Ultra Decade. And Ultra Decade is a carryover from what they've done in Flair. So in my 96-97 Flair set, I talk about this more. So if you want to know more about it, go and check that video out. But basically, in 96-97, Flair wanted to celebrate 10 years of making cards in basketball here in their 11th year. So they made reprints and retro cards, which means recreations of cards that didn't actually exist in the set. But they brought back cards of that set for this special set, all with new numbers, all glossy, etc., etc. Well, they did it for two of the other releases as well. So one of those releases was Ultra, and the difference with the Ultra cards is they have the gold band around the image. That's the primary difference between them. Otherwise, they're pretty much the same and almost all the same players. But these came in the set, and they're really fun cards, in part because it's not just an iconic set in 86-87. It's really good card design. So it's fun to get these again. And for a lot of us, this is the only chance we have to get some really iconic cards. They also made a set called Fresh Faces, and this is a die-cut set of jerseys. Now, this is not the best die-cut jersey set that exists, but it is a really good one. And the strong colors of the jerseys work really well. Really good draft class to work from, so a lot of fun with these cards. Then they have Full Court Trap, and Full Court Trap actually uses brushed metal. And it's not the most dynamic, which actually for Flair is kind of a good thing. They had a tendency to really overdo their brushed metal. So here they kind of tempered it back and made a really well-defined card. And there are two effects. So there's the spectral effect, and then the text on the card, the bronze text, is done with a different brushing. So it doesn't seamlessly feed in. It actually stands a little bit on its own, but it's all seeded into the card. And the card is, most of the players, basically the players have different card background colors. So it's not team color specific, but the players do have different colors. And these cards do come with a parallel, a gold medallion or a gold embossed parallel, which is a misleading name because they don't actually change anything on the card to gold. They do emboss the card. So all the text on the side, all that bronze text, is now bronze embossing. So the main way you can tell the difference is on the back. You can actually see the effect on the back. On the front, it's harder to tell, but you can still tell it. But people get carried away with, when they look at the Scottie Pippen or the Gary Payton, they often think that that is the gold parallel. Well, no. both Gary Payton and Scottie Pippen cards come with gold or goldish backgrounds. So the only way to to really tell whether it's the parallel or not is you got to look on the back and see if you've got a light effect on the back to see where the text is. That's what you got to look for. But that is what the parallel is. It's embossed. It's not gold. It's embossed. So just keep that in mind. But they also had it's Flair, so you're going to have at least one boring insert set, and that is Give and Take here in this set. And Give and Take is basically just a foil treatment over the background behind the player, and it's just, it's overpowering. So there's nothing really intrinsically exciting or appreciable about the Give and Take cards. They're just kind of there. But hey, we got a lot of inserts, so it kind of gets lost in the fold. Fortunately, they have Rookie Rising to kind of make up for it. And Rookie Rising is pretty fun in terms of it's a canvas card. But usually when card companies would do a canvas card, they would actually have it as canvas, so it'd be really floppy. In this case, they made the card a lot thicker, so it's not quite as rigid as a regular card, but it still works pretty well. So it feels essentially like a card, except on the surface, it definitely has that canvas feel, but it also has an oil paint-like effect over the front, which makes these cards look really good. And they have the feel that's really fun to have about these cards. So this is to me, this is one of the most creative things that Flair did, not in terms of it's such a unique idea as much as when they did this, they did it in a great way, a very distinct way. I really think it's wonderful. But Rookie Flashback, now here we're talking about a great card. The Rookie Flashback cards in this set, to me, are hands down the best insert of this year. And I think it's pretty comfortable to say that this is one of the best brushed metal effect cards that's ever been made. Here they finally got it right, absolutely. They have the effect of a basketball print around the outside, and then they have kind of rays radiating out from the player. But the effect of the rays radiating out has a really great, rich quality to it. And then the detailing around the outside just makes this card look like a super well-designed card. Gorgeous, a lot of fun. I really am glad that they finally figured out how to make one of these cards look the way that it absolutely should. So, big plus on that. Now, the Scoring Kings card set, this is a card that it's also well designed, but it's got so much detailing. A very rich card, but the detailing just begs for a similar effect. Kind of gets lost in the card. And so even though it's a really nice card, it's not one that takes advantage of the detailing until you notice that they have a Scoring Kings Plus parallel. And the Scoring Kings Plus card, guess what? It does have the brushed metal. And with this you can really see all of that texturing, all the detail, and it makes the card really fun. So this is another great success they have. And I do have to note, I really love the fact they call this and refer to it on the back as Plus. I wish that they had done that with the other set, because if they'd done that with the full court trap cards, there's a lot of confusion that would be out the window, but at least they did it here with these cards. But the last card set that they did here for 96-97 was Starring Role. And Starring Role is an acetate card. It's a nice card design, but it's lacking something. And if you're coming to this from the world of football, you're going to notice that what they're missing is what they would do in football, which is to have a sequiny-like effect on it, which makes the cards look great. Now, there's also some contrast that they did in the football set that also helps. The only problem with the football version is the fact that it's got like sandpaper-like quality, which is not great for the cards, but this shows you that when they first created these, it was very subdued and was really missing a lot of things that they'd have to figure out, which fortunately they would. But that's kind of what this set was. This set was a setup for the 1997 releases of baseball and football. And in those sports, you'd see them really pull everything together and make the card set come to the full life that it would eventually get to. Here they had most of what they needed, but there were still a few things that they needed to refine, clean up, and get right. And this was the card set that kicked Ultra off into the rest of its run. All cards after this were basically derived from this. This was the start of it. And it's a great card set. It really is. A lot of fun to collect, especially with the parallels. So yeah, it was a big success, and finally Flair was figuring it out. Finally Flair was figuring out how to make cards. So it was about time. Now, I'm not going to get into the other sets. Obviously, we've been running for quite a while. So I'll be looking at 97 and on in another video. Check out the other videos I've done if you haven't already, especially the 96-97 Flair set, because that does give you kind of a feel for where this kind of came from in some ways, some of the mindsets. And if you haven't subscribed already, definitely do so. And check out my other videos if you haven't had a chance. And yeah, thank you very much for watching.